Amara Washington stared at her reflection in the floor-length mirror, barely recognizing the woman looking back at her. The traditional white hanbok felt foreign against her deep brown skin, its silk layers rustling with every breath she took. Her natural curls had been carefully styled into an elegant updo, adorned with delicate silver pins that caught the light. This wasn't how she'd imagined her wedding day. Then again, she'd never imagined getting married at all, especially not to a complete stranger, and certainly not to the heir of Seoul's most dangerous crime family. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." Her father's voice was soft behind her, but she could hear the strain beneath it. Marcus Washington had always been a proud man, a self-made businessman who'd built his import company from nothing. Now that empire was crumbling, and Amara was the price of its salvation. "Don't." The word came out sharper than she intended. She met his eyes in the mirror. "Don't pretend this is normal, Dad. Don't pretend you're not selling me to pay off your debts." His face crumpled, aging a decade in seconds. "If there was any other way." "But there isn't." Amara turned to face him, smoothing down the hanbok with trembling hands. "So let's just get through this." The wedding ceremony was a blur of unfamiliar rituals and watching eyes. The Choi family filled one side of the lavish hall, their expressions carefully neutral as they observed the black American woman who would become one of them. Amara kept her spine straight and her face calm, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her fear. And then there was him. Choi Taemin stood at the altar like a statue carved from ice. Tall, devastatingly handsome, with sharp features and eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His tailored black suit probably cost more than her entire education, and he wore it with the casual confidence of someone who'd never known want. He barely glanced at her as she approached, his jaw tight with what she assumed was displeasure. The ceremony proceeded in Korean, the words washing over her without meaning. She'd tried to learn some basics in the 3 weeks since the arrangement had been made, but standing here now, she felt completely unmoored. When prompted, she repeated the phrases she'd been taught, her accent clumsy and uncertain. Taemin's responses were crisp and emotionless, as if he were conducting a business transaction rather than getting married. Which, she supposed, he was. The reception was even worse. Amara found herself seated at the head table beside her new husband, who hadn't spoken a single word to her beyond the ceremonial vows. Around them, the Choi family and their associates celebrated, drank, and conducted quiet business in corners. She caught fragments of Korean conversation, understanding nothing except the occasional glance thrown her way. "You should eat something." Taemin's voice startled her. His English was perfect, barely accented, which somehow made his previous silence feel even more pointed. "I'm not hungry," she replied, keeping her eyes on her untouched plate. "Suit yourself." He reached for his glass of whiskey, his wedding ring, a thick platinum band, gleaming on his finger. "But it's going to be a long night, and you'll need your strength." Heat crept up her neck at the implication. "If you think I'm going to relax." His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "I meant the drive to the house is 3 hours. My family's estate is outside the city." He downed his whiskey in one smooth motion. "But it's good to know where your mind went." Amara's fingers tightened around her own glass. "You're an asshole." "So I've been told." He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. "We're leaving in 10 minutes. Say your goodbyes." He walked away before she could respond, leaving her seething in her seat. Around her, the party continued, oblivious to the rage and terror warring in her chest. She'd just married a stranger. A criminal. A man who looked at her like she was an inconvenience rather than a person. Her father approached, his eyes red-rimmed. "Amara, save it." She stood, the hanbok suddenly feeling suffocating. "You got what you wanted. Your business is safe. The Choi family gets there, whatever it is they want from this arrangement." She took a shaky breath. "I hope it was worth it." She didn't wait for his response. Instead, she gathered the layers of silk and made her way through the crowd, ignoring the whispers that followed in her wake. She knew what they were thinking. What they were saying. The black girl who married into the Choi family. The outsider. The American who didn't belong. The car waiting outside was a sleek black Mercedes, its windows tinted so dark she couldn't see inside. A driver held the door open, his face impassive as she climbed in. Taemin was already seated, his phone in his hand as he typed rapidly in Korean. As the car pulled away from the venue, Leaving behind the only life she'd ever known, Amara pressed her forehead against the cool window and tried not to cry. Seoul's lights blurred past, beautiful and alien, and she wondered what kind of prison she'd just walked into willingly. "One rule," Taemin said without looking up from his phone. "Stay out of my way, and I'll stay out of yours. This marriage is a business arrangement, nothing more." Amara didn't respond. She just watched the city fade into darkness, taking with it any hope that this might be anything other than a nightmare. She had no idea how wrong she was about everything. The Choi estate materialized from the darkness like something out of a Gothic novel. High stone walls topped with security cameras gave way to iron gates that opened silently at their approach. The driveway wound through manicured gardens, lit by subtle ground lighting that made the landscape feel ethereal and unwelcoming in equal measure. Amara had dozed off despite herself, exhaustion winning over anxiety. She woke as the car stopped in front of a massive modern mansion, all glass and steel and sharp angles that seemed designed to intimidate. "We're here." Taemin was already stepping out, not waiting for the driver or for her. She fumbled with the door handle, the layers of her hanbok making everything awkward. By the time she managed to exit with some semblance of dignity, Taemin was halfway up the front steps, speaking rapid Korean into his phone. The driver appeared at her elbow with her single suitcase. "This way, Mrs. Choi." Mrs. Choi. The name sent a chill through her that had nothing to do with the night air. Inside, the house was just as cold as its master. White marble floors, minimalist furniture, and abstract art that probably cost more than her father's company. Everything was pristine, sterile, like a showroom rather than a home. An older woman appeared, her hair pulled back in a tight bun, her expression carved from the same ice as Taemin's. She spoke in rapid Korean, her eyes sweeping over Amara with undisguised disapproval. "Mrs. Han manages the household," Taemin translated without inflection. "She'll show you to your room." "My room?" Amara's voice echoed in the cavernous entryway. "Don't you mean our room?" Something flickered across Taemin's face, gone too quickly to identify. "I assumed you'd prefer your own space. Unless you'd rather." "No." The word came out too fast, and she saw the corner of his mouth twitch. "My own room is fine." "Thought so." He turned to Mrs. Han, speaking in Korean again. The woman nodded curtly and gestured for Amara to follow. "Wait." Amara hated how small her voice sounded. "Where will you be?" Taemin paused on his way to what looked like a home office, his hand on the doorframe. "I have work to do. Mrs. Han will make sure you have everything you need. Breakfast is at 7. Try not to sleep through it, my mother will be joining us." He disappeared into the office, the door clicking shut with a finality that made Amara's chest tight. Mrs. Han's hand on her elbow was surprisingly gentle despite her stern expression. She led Amara up a sweeping staircase, down a hallway lined with closed doors, to a room at the far end. The bedroom was beautiful in an impersonal way. King-sized bed with white linens, modern furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. A door led to an ensuite bathroom done in white marble and gold fixtures. Her suitcase looked pathetically small and out of place beside the massive wardrobe. Mrs. Han said something in Korean, her tone slightly softer, then left, closing the door behind her. Alone for the first time since the ceremony, Amara finally let herself break. She sank onto the bed, still in the hanbok she'd been married in, and let the tears come. Silent, angry tears that she wiped away furiously even as they fell. She'd known it would be bad. She'd prepared herself for a loveless marriage to a criminal. But somehow the reality was worse than her imagination. The cold indifference, the isolation, the feeling of being completely and utterly alone in a foreign country with people who looked at her like she was a stain on their pristine world. Eventually, the tears stopped. Amara stood, muscles aching, and began the complicated process of removing the hanbok. She found comfortable clothes in her suitcase, leggings and an oversized Howard University sweatshirt, and felt more like herself once she'd changed. Sleep seemed impossible, but she must have managed it because she woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and Mrs. Han knocking insistently on her door. "Mrs. Choi. Breakfast." Amara scrambled up, disoriented. According to her phone, it was 6:55. She'd barely slept 4 hours. She threw on the same clothes and ran fingers through her hair, knowing she looked a mess and not particularly caring. The dining room was on the first floor, another showcase of minimalist luxury. Taemin sat at the head of a long table, immaculate in a charcoal suit, reading something on his tablet. He glanced up as she entered, his eyes taking in her rumpled appearance with what might have been amusement. "Good morning, wife." "Morning," she muttered, sliding into a chair several seats away from him. "My mother likes promptness. You have 3 minutes." As if summoned by his words, the door opened and a woman glided in. She was beautiful, elegant, her hair perfectly styled, wearing a cream-colored suit that screamed old money. Her eyes, the same dark, unreadable eyes as her son, swept over Amara with the same disapproval Mrs. Han had shown. She spoke in Korean, her voice melodious despite the clear disdain in her tone. "My mother welcomes you to the family," Taemin translated, his voice flat. "She hopes you'll adjust quickly to your new life." The word said one thing, but Amara could read the subtext clearly: "You don't belong here, and we both know it." "Thank you," Amara replied, meeting the woman's eyes. "I appreciate the warm welcome." Taemin's mouth twitched again, and his mother's eyes narrowed slightly. Score 1 for Amara. Breakfast was a tense, silent affair. Mrs. Han served traditional Korean dishes that Amara had no idea how to eat properly. She did her best, aware of the older woman's scrutiny, determined not to show weakness. Taemin's mother spoke occasionally to her son in Korean, completely excluding Amara from the conversation. Taemin responded in monosyllables, his attention mostly on his tablet. Finally, mercifully, breakfast ended. Taemin's mother left without another word to Amara. Taemin stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "I have business in the city. I'll be back late. Don't wait up." He paused at the door. "And Amara? Stay inside the estate. For your own safety." Is that a warning or a threat? His dark eyes met hers, and for a moment, she saw something beneath the ice. Something almost like concern, or maybe pity. Considerate advice. "The world I live in isn't kind to weakness, and right now, you're the biggest vulnerability I have." Then he was gone, leaving her alone in the cold, beautiful prison of her new life, wondering how long she could survive in the den of wolves she'd married into. 3 days passed in suffocating monotony. Amara wandered the estate like a ghost, exploring rooms that felt more like museum exhibits than living spaces. Mrs. Han followed at a distance, always watching, always disapproving. Taemin left before dawn and returned after midnight, their only interactions limited to terse exchanges at breakfast when his mother was present. On the 4th morning, Amara woke to shouting. She threw on a robe and rushed into the hallway, following the sound of raised voices to the foyer. Taemin stood at the bottom of the stairs, still in last night's clothes, his usually perfect hair disheveled. Blood stained his white shirt. Facing him was a man Amara hadn't seen before. Younger than Taemin, maybe mid-20s, with dyed blonde hair and an expensive leather jacket. He was grinning like this was all a game, speaking rapid Korean that sounded mocking even to Amara's untrained ear. "I said get out, miho." Taemin's voice was deadly quiet, his hands clenched at his sides. "Not until I meet her." The blonde man's eyes slid past Taemin and landed on Amara. His grin widened. "Ah, there she is. The American bride everyone's talking about." He switched to English effortlessly, his accent barely noticeable. He bounded up the stairs before Taemin could stop him, coming to stand directly in front of Amara. Up close, she could see the mischief dancing in his eyes, the expensive cologne that couldn't quite mask the smell of cigarettes and alcohol. "I'm Kang Miho, Taemin's favorite cousin." He extended his hand. "And you're the woman who accomplished the impossible." "Which is?" Amara found herself shaking his hand despite Taemin's murderous glare from below. "Getting our ice prince to marry anyone at all." Miho's grin turned conspiratorial. "See, there were bets. Most of the family thought he'd find a way out of the arrangement. Some thought he made an exaggerated gesture, waggling his eyebrows suggestively. "Miho." Taemin was suddenly there, his hand gripping his cousin's shoulder hard enough to make the other man wince. "Leave. Now." "Ow, okay. Miho pulled away, still grinning. "But seriously, Taemin, you can't keep her locked up here like Rapunzel. People are curious. The family wants to meet her properly. There's a gathering this weekend at Uncle's house and she's not ready." "I'm standing right here," Amara interjected, irritation flaring. "And I can speak for myself." Both men turned to look at her. Miho's expression was delighted, Taemin's carefully blank. See? She's feisty. I like her. Miho pulled out his phone. Saturday, 8 p.m. It's not optional, cousin. Uncle's orders. He wants to meet his new niece-in-law. He winked at Amara and disappeared down the stairs, whistling an off-key tune. The front door slammed behind him. Silence settled, heavy and uncomfortable. Amara became acutely aware that she was standing in her nightgown and robe, her natural curls wild from sleep. Taemin looked exhausted, the blood on his shirt dried to a rust color, dark circles under his eyes. Are you hurt? The question came out before she could stop it. He glanced down at his shirt as if he'd forgotten about it. It's not my blood. Oh. Amara wrapped her arms around herself. Should I ask? No. He moved past her toward what she assumed was his bedroom. And you're not going on Saturday. Excuse me? She turned to follow him. Your cousin said it wasn't optional. I don't care what Miho said. Taemin paused at his door, his back to her. That gathering is not a family dinner. It's a display of power, territory negotiations, business discussions that you have no part in. They'll eat you alive. Maybe I'm tougher than you think. He turned then, and for the first time since they'd met, she saw something other than ice in his eyes. Anger, yes, but also something that looked almost like fear. You have no idea what these people are capable of. What they've done. He stopped himself, jaw clenching. Just stay here. It's safer. Safer for who? Me, or your reputation? The words came out sharper than intended. I'm not an idiot, Taemin. I know what your family is. What you are. I didn't sign up for this life, but I'm stuck in it, and I refuse to hide like some dirty secret. Something flickered across his face. That's not. Then what is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're ashamed of me. Your American wife. Your black wife. The woman who doesn't fit into your perfect, pristine world. You think that's what this is about? His voice dropped to something dangerous. You think I care what color your skin is? I don't know what you care about. You barely speak to me. You avoid me like I have the plague. You keep me locked up in this beautiful prison and expect me to just sit here quietly while you do whatever it is you do that gets other people's blood on your shirt. The words hung in the air between them. Amara was breathing hard, her heart pounding. She'd pushed too far, she knew it, but she was tired of being treated like furniture. Taemin stepped closer, and she forced herself not to retreat. This close, she could smell his cologne mixed with something metallic, could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, could feel the heat radiating from his body. You want to know why I avoid you? His voice was barely above a whisper. Because you complicate everything. Because my enemies will use you against me. Because every moment you're in my life, you're in danger, and I can't. He stopped, something raw flashing across his face before the mask slammed back down. Forget it. Do what you want. Go to the gathering. But don't say I didn't warn you. He disappeared into his room, the door closing with controlled precision. Amara stood in the hallway, her hands trembling, her mind racing. That was the most words Taemin had said to her since the wedding, and hidden in his anger was something else. Something that made her chest ache. He was protecting her. In his own twisted, frustrating way, he was trying to keep her safe. But safe from what? From his family, from his enemies, or from himself? She returned to her room, sleep impossible now. Saturday was 2 days away. 2 days to prepare for whatever waited for her in the heart of the Choi family's world. 2 days to figure out the men she'd married, and why, despite everything, the fear in his eyes had made her want to reach for him instead of run away. She was in so much trouble, and not the kind she'd expected. Saturday arrived too quickly. Amara spent the afternoon in a state of nervous energy, trying on every outfit she'd brought before settling on a black silk dress that hit just above her knees. Conservative but elegant. She left her curls natural, falling past her shoulders in defined spirals, and kept her makeup subtle except for a bold red lip. When she descended the stairs at 7:30, Taemin was waiting in the foyer. He wore a navy suit that fit him like sin, his hair styled back from his face. His eyes widened fractionally when he saw her, traveling from her face down to her heels and back up again. You look, he stopped, cleared his throat. Ready? As I'll ever be. She accepted the wrap he held out, letting him drape it over her shoulders. His fingers brushed her skin, and she felt him tense before stepping back quickly. The drive took 40 minutes. Taemin spent most of it on his phone, but as they pulled up to a sprawling traditional Korean estate, he finally spoke. "Stay close to me. Don't answer questions about your father's business. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, find me immediately." He turned to face her, his expression serious. "And whatever you do, don't go anywhere alone with my uncle." "Which uncle?" "You'll know." The estate was already full of people when they arrived. Unlike the sterile modern aesthetic of Taemin's house, this place was all dark wood, traditional architecture, and ostentatious displays of wealth. Men in expensive suits clustered in groups, their conversation stopping as Amara and Taemin entered. Women in designer dresses watched from the sidelines, their eyes sharp and assessing. Taemin's hand found the small of her back, a gesture that looked possessive to outsiders but felt more like an anchor to Amara. "Taemin." Miho appeared from the crowd, a drink already in his hand. "And the lovely Amara. You came. I wasn't sure Ice Prince here would let you out of your tower." "Miho." Taemin's voice held a warning. "Relax, cousin. I'm being friendly." Miho offered Amara his arm. "Come on, I'll introduce you to the less terrifying relatives first." Taemin's hand tightened on her back for a moment before releasing. 10 minutes, Miho. Then she comes back to me." The next hour was a blur of names and faces. Miho proved to be an excellent guide, offering whispered commentary about each family member they encountered. Most were polite if distant. A few were openly curious, asking questions about America, about her family, about how she'd met Taemin. She deflected smoothly, sticking to the vague story they'd agreed upon. She was laughing at one of Miho's outrageous stories when a hush fell over the room. A man entered through the main doors, and everyone seemed to unconsciously shift to accommodate his presence. "Uncle Juno," Miho muttered. "The head of the family. And the one you should avoid." Choi Juno was in his 50s, with silver threading through his black hair and eyes that missed nothing. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no, who expected the world to bend to his will. His gaze swept the room and landed on Amara like a predator spotting prey. He said something in Korean, his voice carrying across the space. Around them, people smiled, but the expressions didn't reach their eyes. Taemin appeared at Amara's side so quickly she wondered if he'd been watching from across the room. His hand slipped around her waist, pulling her against him in a way he never had before. "Uncle." Taemin's voice was respectful but cool. "May I present my wife, Amara?" Juno approached, still speaking in Korean. His smile was all teeth, no warmth. When he reached them, he switched to accented English. "So this is the woman who tamed our Taemin. I must say, you're not what I expected." His eyes traveled over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "Beautiful, certainly. Exotic. But I wonder, are you strong enough for this family?" "I'm stronger than I look." Amara met his gaze steadily, feeling Taemin's fingers flex against her hip. "We shall see." Juno's smile widened. "Marriage is about more than beauty, after all. It's about loyalty. Obedience. Understanding your place." He said something to Taemin in Korean, his tone pointed. Taemin's response was equally sharp, his body rigid beside her. Whatever he said made Juno's eyes narrow, but the older man just laughed. "Protective already. How touching." He looked at Amara again. "Enjoy the party, my dear. We'll talk again soon." He drifted away, and Amara felt Taemin release a breath he'd been holding. "What did he say to you?" she asked quietly. "Nothing important." But his jaw was tight, and his hand remained on her waist. "We're leaving. We just got here." "I don't care. I shouldn't have brought you." He started guiding her toward the exit, but Juno's voice rang out, stopping them. He was speaking Korean again, but the challenge in his tone was universal. People turned to watch. Taemin went completely still beside her. "What's happening?" Amara whispered. Miho appeared at her other side, his usual cheerfulness gone. "Uncle is demanding Taemin stay. Some business that needs discussing. Tonight." He glanced at Taemin, who looked like he wanted to murder someone. "Protocol says he can't refuse." "Then I'll stay too." "No." Taemin turned her to face him, his dark eyes intense. "Miho will take you home. Now." "But." "Please." The word seemed to cost him. "Trust me on this." Before she could respond, a woman's voice cut through the tension. Young, melodious, speaking rapid Korean as she glided toward them in a red dress that probably cost more than Amara's entire wardrobe. She was beautiful in that effortless way some women were, with perfect skin, delicate features, and hair that fell like silk down her back. She said something to Taemin, smiling, her hand landing on his arm in a gesture of easy familiarity. Taemin's expression shifted to something Amara couldn't read. He responded in Korean, removing her hand gently but firmly. The woman's eyes slid to Amara, assessment turning to barely concealed disdain. She said something that made several nearby people laugh. "Who is that?" Amara asked Miho. "Park Soyeon." Miho's voice was carefully neutral. "Taemin's ex-girlfriend." "Well, ex-fiancée, technically. They were supposed to marry before." He stopped, looking uncomfortable. "Before Taemin's father arranged his marriage to Amara instead." Understanding crashed through her like cold water. Soyeon was still talking, her hand back on Taemin's arm, her body angled toward him in a way that excluded Amara completely. And Taemin was letting her, his responses quiet, his face unreadable. Something hot and ugly twisted in Amara's chest. Jealousy, she realized with shock. She was jealous of this woman, of her easy familiarity with Taemin, of whatever history they shared. "Amara." Miho touched her elbow. "We should go." "Yeah." She tore her eyes away from Taemin and Soyeon. "Let's go." She didn't look back as Miho led her out, didn't want to see if Taemin noticed her leaving. In the car, she stared out the window, trying to process everything that had happened. The dangerous uncle. The ex-fiancé. The family that looked at her like an intruder. And Taemin, caught between protecting her and whatever obligations bound him to this world. When they reached the estate, Miho walked her to the door. "For what it's worth," he said softly, "Soyeon means nothing to him. Not anymore. It's fine. It's not like this is a real marriage anyway." But as she climbed the stairs to her empty room, she couldn't shake the image of Soyeon's hand on Taemin's arm, or the way her chest had ached watching them together. She was falling for her husband, she realized. Her cold, distant, dangerous husband who was probably still at that party with his beautiful ex-fiancée. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. Amara didn't sleep. She lay in bed watching the ceiling, listening for the sound of Taemin's return. 1 a.m. came and went. Then 2. Then 3. At 4:30, she heard the front door open. Footsteps on the stairs, slow and heavy. They paused outside her door for a long moment before continuing down the hall to his room. She told herself she didn't care. Told herself it didn't matter that he'd spent hours at that party, probably with Soyeon draped over him like expensive perfume. This wasn't a real marriage. She had no claim on him, no right to feel betrayed. But when she finally fell asleep as dawn broke, her pillow was damp with tears she refused to acknowledge. She woke late, skipping breakfast entirely. Mrs. Han brought a tray to her room, her expression softer than usual, almost pitying. Amara wanted to throw the food across the room. Instead, she ate mechanically and decided she was done hiding. Done being the obedient wife locked away in her tower. If Taemin wanted to ignore her, fine. She'd find her own way in this country. She dressed in jeans and a sweater, pulled her curls into a high puff, and marched downstairs with purpose. She found Mrs. Han in the kitchen. "I want to go out," Amara announced. "Shopping. The city. I don't care where, but I'm not staying locked up here anymore." Mrs. Han blinked, clearly not understanding. Amara pulled out her phone, using a translation app to repeat herself in Korean. Mrs. Han's eyes widened, and she shook her head vigorously, speaking rapidly. "I don't need permission," Amara said firmly. "I need a driver. And if you won't arrange one, I'll call a taxi." She turned to leave, but Mrs. Han caught her arm, still shaking her head. She was pulling out her own phone when Taemin's voice cut through the kitchen. "What's going on?" He looked terrible. Still in last night's suit, now wrinkled. Hair disheveled. Exhaustion carved into every line of his face. But his eyes were alert, sharp, tracking between Amara and Mrs. Han. "I'm going out," Amara said, lifting her chin. "Unless you plan to physically stop me." "You can't just," he stopped, rubbed his face. "It's not safe." "Then make it safe. Assign me a bodyguard. Have someone follow me. I don't care. But I'm not staying in this house another day playing the invisible wife while you do whatever it is you do." Something flashed in his eyes. Anger, maybe. Or hurt. Is this about last night? Last night? You mean when you sent me home like a child while you stayed with your ex-fiancée? The words came out sharper than intended. No, Taemin. This is about every day since we got married. This is about being treated like a prisoner in a marriage I didn't want. You think I wanted this? His voice rose, rare emotion cracking through. You think I chose to marry a stranger? To put you in danger just by existing in my life? Then why did you? The question hung between them. Mrs. Han had quietly slipped out, leaving them alone in the vast kitchen. Taemin's jaw worked, his hands clenching and unclenching. Because my father's dying wish was to secure your father's company. Because Uncle Juno wanted to marry me to Soyeon to strengthen his control of the family, and this was the only way to stop it. Because I'd rather marry someone I don't know than someone I can't stand. You were engaged to her. You must have felt something. I felt trapped. He laughed, bitter and sharp. Soyeon and I were arranged too. Since we were teenagers. Everyone assumed we'd marry, merge our family's interests. I went along with it because I didn't care enough to fight. His eyes met hers, raw and honest. But then my father found a better option. An alliance that didn't give Juno more power. That's all you are, Amara. A better strategic choice. The words should have hurt. Maybe they did. But there was something in his voice, in the way he couldn't quite hold her gaze, that made her think he was lying. Or at least not telling the whole truth. And last night? What was that about? Business. He moved to the coffee maker, his back to her. Juno wanted to discuss territory disputes. Soyeon was there because her father is one of his allies. Nothing happened. I didn't ask if anything happened. Didn't you? He turned, coffee cup in hand, his expression carefully blank again. The moment of vulnerability gone. You're jealous. I'm not, but she was. They both knew it. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. You surprised me, wife. I didn't think you cared enough to be jealous. I don't. The lie tasted bitter. I just don't like being humiliated. Your family already looks at me like I'm dirt on their shoes. Having your ex-fiancée parade around didn't help. He set down his coffee, closing the distance between them in 2 long strides. Suddenly he was right there, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with whiskey and exhaustion. You want to know why I sent you home? His voice was low, dangerous. Because Uncle Juno spent the entire night making comments about you. About what he'd like to do to you. About how easy it would be to make you disappear if I stepped out of line. His hand came up, fingers ghosting along her jaw. Because Soyeon suggested several ways to ensure our marriage isn't consummated, all of them involving your accidental death. Amara's breath caught. What? This is my world, Amara. These are the people I deal with every day. Uncle wants me under his control, and you're the easiest way to control me. Soyeon wants you gone so she can reclaim her position. And everyone else is just waiting to see which side wins. His thumb brushed across her cheek, and she realized she was trembling. So forgive me for trying to keep you safe, even if it means you hate me for it. I don't hate you. The words came out barely above a whisper. You should. But he didn't move away. If anything, he leaned closer, his forehead nearly touching hers. You should hate me in this marriage and everything it represents. Taemin. But if you really want to go out, I'll take you. Tomorrow. I have the day off, and I know a place where we won't be bothered. Where you can pretend to be normal for a few hours. He stepped back, the loss of his warmth almost painful. Deal? Amara nodded, not trusting her voice. Her skin still tingled where he'd touched her. Good. Now get some rest. You look exhausted. He grabbed his coffee and headed for the door, pausing in the threshold. And Amara? Nothing happened with Soyeon last night. Nothing's happened between us in years. In case you were actually wondering. He left before she could respond, his footsteps fading down the hall. Amara stood in the kitchen, her heart pounding, her mind racing. He touched her. Really touched her, with something close to tenderness. He'd opened up about the danger surrounding them, about why he kept his distance. And tomorrow, they'd go somewhere together. Just the two of them. She was definitely in trouble. The kind that had nothing to do with mafia politics and everything to do with the way her husband's touch had made her forget how to breathe. She was falling for Choi Taemin, and she had no idea if he'd catch her or let her crash. Taemin kept his promise. The next morning, he appeared at her door in jeans and a simple black sweater, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. No suit armor, no ice-cold mask. Just a tired man with gentle eyes and coffee in hand. "Ready?" he asked, offering her the cup. She took it, their fingers brushing. The contact sent electricity up her arm. "Where are we going?" "You'll see." The drive took them away from the city, into rolling hills covered in autumn colors. Taemin drove himself, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the center console close enough to touch. He didn't speak much, but the silence felt comfortable rather than oppressive. They pulled up to a small hanok, a traditional Korean house, tucked away in the countryside. It was beautiful, well-maintained but clearly private. No other buildings in sight. "What is this place?" Amara asked as they got out. "Mine." "Well, mine and my brother's. Our mother doesn't know about it." He unlocked the door, gesturing for her to enter. "It's where we come when we need to escape the family." "You have a brother?" Something painful flickered across his face. "Had. Minjun died 3 years ago." "Oh, Taemin. I'm so sorry." He nodded, not meeting her eyes. He was the good one. The one who should have inherited everything. But he fell in love with the wrong person, and Uncle Juno. He stopped, jaw clenching. "It doesn't matter now. Come on, I'll show you around." The hanok was cozy, filled with personal touches that felt nothing like the sterile mansion. Photos on the wall showed a younger Taemin with a man who looked like him but with a softer smile. Books lined the shelves. A guitar sat in the corner. "You play?" Amara picked up the guitar carefully. Minjun did. "I never had the patience." Taemin moved to the kitchen, which despite the traditional exterior was modern inside. "Are you hungry? I can make something." "You cook. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not completely useless." He pulled ingredients from the refrigerator. "Sit. Talk to me." So she did. She sat at the counter and told him about her life in America. About her mother who died when she was 12. About her dreams of becoming a photographer before her father's business consumed everything. About feeling like she'd never quite belonged anywhere, and now she definitely didn't belong here. Taemin listened, really listened, as he prepared food. His hands moved with surprising skill, chopping vegetables, seasoning meat. When he plated bulgogi and rice and brought it to her, it smelled amazing. "This is incredible," she said after the first bite. "Minjun taught me. Said I needed at least one normal skill." His smile was sad. He wanted out, you know. Out of the family, the business, all of it. He was going to run away with his boyfriend, start fresh somewhere no one knew the Choi name. Amara's chopsticks froze halfway to her mouth. "Boyfriend?" "Jiho. They met in university. Fell stupidly in love." Taemin's voice was soft, distant. Minjun didn't care what the family thought. He was going to be happy, consequences be damned. But Uncle found out. Threatened Jiho's family. Minjun tried to protect him, made a deal with Uncle that went wrong, and, he stopped, his hand trembling slightly. He died protecting someone he loved. That's more than most of us get. The pieces clicked together in Amara's mind. Is that why there were rumors? About you? Taemin's eyes snapped to hers, sharp and guarded. "What rumors?" "Miho mentioned, people wondered why you avoided marriage. Why you kept Soyeon at arm's length even when you were engaged." She set down her chopsticks carefully. "They thought you might be gay." He laughed, but it sounded broken. "And if I was? Would it matter to you?" "No." She meant it. "But I don't think you are. I think you're scared." "Of what?" "Of ending up like your brother. Of loving someone and getting them killed because of your family." She reached across the counter, covering his hand with hers. "That's why you keep me at distance. Not because you're ashamed of me, but because you're terrified something will happen to me." His hand turned under hers, fingers lacing together. "You're too perceptive for your own good." "So I'm right." Minjun loved freely, openly. And it destroyed him. It destroyed Jiho too. He left Korea the day after the funeral, and no one's heard from him since. Taemin's grip tightened. I promised myself I'd never let myself care that much. Never give uncle or anyone else that kind of leverage over me. And then your father arranged our marriage. And then you walked into my life looking terrified and furious and so damn beautiful I couldn't breathe. The confession came out raw, honest. I told myself it was just an arrangement. That I could keep you safe by keeping you at distance. But then you stood up to my mother at breakfast. And you got jealous of Soyeon. And you're looking at me right now like I'm not a monster, and I don't know what to do with that. Amara's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. What do you want to do? He stood, rounding the counter until he was right in front of her. His hands came up to frame her face, thumbs stroking her cheeks. His eyes searched hers, dark and desperate and wanting. I want to kiss you. I've wanted to since you walked down that aisle looking like you'd rather murder me than marry me. His forehead touched hers. But if I do, everything changes. I won't be able to keep my distance anymore. And that puts you in more danger than you already are. Maybe I don't want distance. Her hands fisted in his sweater. Maybe I'm tired of being safe and lonely. Kiss me, Taemin. He did. It started gentle, almost hesitant, like he was afraid she might shatter. But when she pressed closer, her arms wrapping around his neck, something broke in him. The kiss deepened, became hungry, desperate. He lifted her onto the counter, stepping between her legs, one hand tangled in her curls while the other gripped her hip. She'd been kissed before, but never like this. Never like she was air and he was drowning. Never like they were the only two people in the world and nothing else mattered. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers again. I'm going to fall in love with you, he whispered. I'm probably already halfway there, and it's going to get us both killed. Then we'll die together. She kissed him again, softer this time. I'm not going anywhere, Taemin. You're stuck with me. He laughed, and it sounded like relief and terror mixed together. God help us both. They spent the rest of the day at the Hanok, talking, kissing, existing in a bubble where the Choi family and their obligations didn't exist. For a few hours, they were just Taemin and Amara, two people figuring out how to be married to each other. But as they drove back to the estate that evening, reality crept back in. Taemin's phone buzzed with messages he ignored. The gates of their prison loomed ahead. Whatever happens, he said as they pulled into the driveway, I need you to trust me. Even when it doesn't make sense. Even when it looks like I'm pushing you away again. Taemin, you're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. But know that everything I do from now on is to keep you alive. Even if you hate me for it. Before she could ask what he meant, his phone rang. He looked at the screen and his entire body went rigid. Uncle Juno. He answered in Korean, his voice cool and professional. But his hand gripped hers tighter, almost painfully. The conversation was brief. When he hung up, the man who'd kissed her so desperately hours ago was gone, replaced by the ice prince she'd first married. What's wrong? Uncle knows we came here. He knows about this place. Taemin's jaw clenched. And he's invited us to dinner tomorrow night. Just the three of us. That doesn't sound like an invitation. It's not. It's a threat. He finally looked at her, and the fear in his eyes made her blood run cold. He's making his move. Amara barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Uncle Juno's predatory smile. Taemin had been distant again since the phone call, locked in his office making calls in rapid Korean, his voice tense and urgent. At breakfast, his mother was there, watching them with those sharp, knowing eyes. She spoke to Taemin in Korean, her tone pointed. He responded curtly, not looking at Amara. When his mother left, Amara finally spoke. What did she say? That uncle has made his intentions clear. That I need to choose a side. He set down his coffee cup with controlled precision. She's worried. Should I be worried? His eyes met hers, and she saw the answer before he spoke. Yes. The dinner was set for 7 p.m. at one of Uncle Juno's restaurants, a private room in the back where business was conducted. Taemin spent the afternoon preparing her, his instructions careful and specific. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't accept anything to drink that I haven't tasted first. Stay within my line of sight at all times. He adjusted his tie in the mirror, his movements mechanical. And if I tell you to leave, you run. Don't argue, don't hesitate. You run. Taemin, what is he going to do? Make me an offer I can't refuse. He turned to face her, and the resignation in his expression terrified her. Uncle's been consolidating power for years. With my father gone, I'm the only one who can challenge him for control of the family. He wants me to fall in line, to marry Soyeon like originally planned, to become his puppet. And if you refuse? Then he'll eliminate the obstacle keeping me from doing what he wants. His hand cupped her face, thumb stroking her cheek. He'll kill you, Amara. And he'll make me watch. Her blood ran cold. So what do? We survive tonight. Everything else, we figure out later. The restaurant was elegant, traditional, the kind of place where deals were made and empires built or destroyed. They were led to a private room where Uncle Juno waited, Soyeon at his side like a beautiful, poisonous flower. Nephew. And your lovely bride. Juno gestured to the cushions across from him. Please, sit. We have much to discuss. The meal was elaborate, course after course of expensive food that tasted like ash in Amara's mouth. Juno spoke mostly in Korean, occasionally switching to English for Amara's benefit, but always with that undertone of threat. Soyeon barely acknowledged Amara's presence, all her attention focused on Taemin. She touched his arm when she spoke, leaned close, laughed at his responses. Marking her territory. You've been making waves, Taemin. Juno set down his chopsticks, his smile sharp. Taking your wife to hidden properties. Refusing my business opportunities. Defying tradition. I'm honoring my father's wishes. The marriage stands. Your father was sentimental. He let his personal feelings cloud his judgment. Juno leaned forward. But I'm prepared to be generous. Annul this marriage. Wed Soyeon as intended. Together, we'll lead the family into a prosperous future. And if I refuse? Then we have a problem. Juno's eyes slid to Amara. Your wife is lovely, but she's a liability. Wrong nationality, wrong color, wrong everything. The family whispers about her. Questions your judgment. She weakens your position. Amara's hands clenched in her lap. Beside her, Taemin went absolutely still. She's my wife. That's not negotiable. Everything is negotiable. Juno pulled out his phone, tapping the screen. For instance, did you know her father's company is on the verge of bankruptcy again? Despite our agreement. Poor business decisions, bad investments. Very sad. Amara's heart sank. Her father. Of course Uncle would use her father. But I could fix that, Juno continued smoothly. One phone call, and his debts disappear. His company thrives. He lives comfortably for the rest of his life. He set the phone down between them like a weapon. All you have to do is sign these divorce papers, marry Soyeon, and pledge your absolute loyalty to me. The room fell silent. Soyeon was smiling, victorious. Juno looked expectant. And Taemin looked like a mun being torn in half. You're asking me to choose between my wife and my honor. I'm asking you to choose reality over sentiment. Juno pushed papers across the table. Sign, Taemin. Do the smart thing. Taemin picked up the papers, reading them carefully. Amara's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. This was it. The end of their brief, fragile beginning. He'd choose his family, his position, his power. And she'd go back to America alone. She didn't blame him. How could she? They'd known each other less than 2 weeks. One perfect afternoon didn't erase the weight of his obligations. No. The word was quiet but absolute. Taemin set down the papers, his eyes meeting Juno's with steel. I won't divorce her. I won't marry Soyeon. And I won't be your puppet. He stood, pulling Amara up with him. My father may have made this marriage for strategic reasons, but I'm keeping it for my own. She's my wife and anyone who threatens her threatens me. Juno's expression darkened. You're making a mistake. Probably. But it's my mistake to make. Taemin's hand tightened around Amara's. We're leaving. If you walk out that door, you're declaring war. Juno stood, his voice dropping to something dangerous. On me. On the family. On everything your father built. Then so be it. They were almost to the door when Juno spoke again. She'll die, Taemin. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But I will take her from you, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but your regret. Taemin paused, his body rigid. Then he turned, and the look on his face made even Juno take a step back. If you touch her, if you even look at her wrong, I will burn this entire family to the ground. I'll expose every dirty secret, every illegal deal, every skeleton in every closet. I'll destroy us all before I let you hurt her. His voice was soft, lethal. That's not a threat, uncle. That's a promise. They left to stunned silence. In the car, Amara's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Taemin, what did you just do? Started a war. He was driving fast, jaw clenched, eyes checking the mirrors constantly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. You chose me. The words came out choked. Over everything, you chose me. Of course I did. He reached over, lacing their fingers together. I meant what I said yesterday. I'm falling in love with you, Amara. Maybe I already have. And I don't care what it costs me. It might cost you everything. Then everything is a price I'm willing to pay. He brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles without taking his eyes off the road. But we need to move fast. Uncle won't wait long to retaliate. What do? We fight. We run. We survive. His grip tightened. Together. When they reached the estate, Taemin made calls while Amara packed essentials. They couldn't stay here, Uncle knew every security detail, every weak point. They needed to disappear, at least temporarily. Miho arrived within the hour, his usual cheerfulness replaced by grim determination. Heard you declared war on Uncle. Very romantic, very stupid. He handed Taemin a burner phone. I'm with you, cousin. Whatever you need. Safe house. Something Uncle doesn't know about. I have a place. Gangnam District, registered under a shell company. Top floor, good security. Miho's eyes slid to Amara. You sure about this? About her? Taemin pulled Amara against him, his arm around her waist possessive and protective. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Miho nodded slowly. Then let's keep her alive. As they loaded into Miho's car, Amara looked back at the estate one last time. Just days ago, it had been a beautiful prison. Now it felt like a lifetime ago. Taemin's hand found hers in the darkness. No going back now, she whispered. No going back, he agreed. Only forward. Together. The safe house was everything the estate wasn't: small, modern, anonymous. A sleek apartment on the 20th floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering chaos of Gangnam. Miho had it stocked with everything they'd need: food, clothes, burner phones, and enough cash to disappear if necessary. Security system is top tier, Miho explained, showing Taemin the controls. Cameras on every entrance, panic button by the bed, and the building's got ex-military for security. He glanced between them. You should be safe here. For now. After Miho left, the silence felt heavy. Amara stood by the windows, watching Seoul pulse with life below, while Taemin paced like a caged animal, his phone pressed to his ear as he made call after call in terse Korean. When he finally hung up, his shoulders sagged with exhaustion. What did they say? Amara asked softly. Uncle's already moving. He's called a family meeting, spinning the narrative that I've betrayed them for an outsider. He rubbed his face. Half the family will side with him out of fear. The other half won't risk opposing him. We're on our own. Not completely. Miho's with us. Miho's one person against an army. But he moved toward her, wrapping his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. I'm sorry. You deserve better than this. I deserve you. She turned in his embrace, her hands sliding up his chest. And you deserve to be free of that family's poison. I'm still part of them. Still have their blood, their training, their sins. His eyes searched hers. Doesn't that scare you? Everything about you scares me. Her fingers traced his jaw. But I'm not going anywhere. He kissed her then, deep and desperate, pouring everything he couldn't say into the press of his lips. She responded with equal intensity, her body molding against his as weeks of tension finally shattered. They stumbled toward the bedroom, hands pulling at clothes, mouths never separating. The bed was soft beneath them, the city lights painting their skin in gold and shadow. For the first time, there were no barriers between them, no family obligations, no pretense, no distance. Just Taemin and Amara, finally, completely together. Afterward, they lay tangled in the sheets, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her skin. "I never thought I'd have this," he murmured. "Never thought I deserved it." "What changed?" "You. You looked at me like I was more than my last name. More than my family's legacy." His arm tightened around her. "You made me want to be better. You are better. You just needed permission to see it." They drifted off like that, wrapped around each other, safe in their temporary haven. The crash woke her. Glass shattering, alarm screaming. Amara jolted upright to find Taemin already moving, pulling on pants, grabbing something from under the mattress, a gun, black and lethal in his hands. "Stay here. Lock the door." His voice was ice-cold, all traces of the tender lover gone. This was the Mafia heir, trained and dangerous. "Taemin." "Now, Amara." She scrambled into the bathroom, locking herself in as instructed, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might explode. Through the door, she heard shouts in Korean, furniture crashing, and then a sound that made her blood freeze, gunshots. She pressed her hands over her mouth to keep from screaming. Minutes passed like hours. Then silence, terrible and complete. The bathroom door rattled. "Amara." "It's me." "Open up." She recognized his voice but couldn't make her hand stop shaking enough to unlock it. Finally, she managed, and he was there, blood on his shirt, a cut above his eyebrow, but alive. "Are you hurt?" She reached for him, checking frantically. "Not my blood." He caught her hands, stilling them. "They sent 3 men. Professionals. Someone gave them this address." "How did they find us so fast?" "That's what I intend to find out." His jaw clenched. "But we can't stay here. Pack light. We leave in 5 minutes." The apartment was destroyed. Bodies lay motionless, she tried not to look. Taemin moved through the wreckage with military efficiency, grabbing phones, cash, the gun never leaving his hand. "Where do we go?" Amara asked as they rushed toward the stairwell, avoiding the elevator. "The Hanok. It's risky, but Uncle already knows about it, so he won't expect us to go back." He pulled her down flight after flight of stairs. "We need to contact someone I trust. Someone outside the family." They made it to the parking garage, to a car Miho had left them. Taemin drove like a man possessed, weaving through traffic, constantly checking mirrors. Amara held on, watching the city blur past, wondering how her life had become an action movie. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She looked at Taemin, who nodded grimly. She answered. "Hello, Amara." Uncle Juno's voice was smooth, unbothered. "I hope you're not hurt. That would be unfortunate." "What do you want?" "To offer one final chance. Leave Korea. Go back to America. Your father's company will be saved, and you'll live to see your next birthday." He paused. "Or stay with Taemin and die. Your choice." "I'm not leaving him." "How romantic. How foolish." Juno's tone hardened. "You have 24 hours to reconsider. After that, every resource I have will be dedicated to ending you. And trust me, my dear, you cannot hide from me forever." The line went dead. Taemin's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "What did he say?" "That I have 24 hours to leave Korea or die. Then we have 24 hours to end this." He pulled off the highway, taking back roads toward the Hanok. "I have evidence. Files, recordings, documents proving Uncle's illegal operations. Things even the family doesn't know about. I was supposed to use them to protect myself, but now you'll use them to destroy him. It's the only way. If we expose him, the family will have to cast him out or risk government intervention. He'll lose everything." Taemin's expression was grim. "But it means I lose everything too. Once those files go public, I can never go back. The Choi name will be toxic. We'll be fugitives forever." Amara reached over, lacing her fingers with his. "Then we'll be fugitives together." He brought her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles. "I love you. I should have said it sooner, but I love you, Amara. More than power, more than family, more than my own life. I love you too. The words felt right, true, despite everything. Now let's burn it all down and start over. They reached the hammock as dawn broke over the hills. Inside, Taemin went straight to a hidden panel, pulling out a laptop and several hard drives. This is everything. 20 years of uncle's crimes, all documented. He plugged in the drives, fingers flying over the keyboard. Once I send this to the authorities and the press, there's no going back. Then don't go back. Go forward. With me. He looked at her, this man she'd married as a stranger and learned to love in the midst of chaos, and smiled. Really smiled, warm and genuine and free. Forward it is. His finger hovered over the enter key. Outside, car engines rumbled, they were out of time. Do it, Amara said. He did. And the Choi Empire began to crumble. The car engines grew louder. Taemin grabbed the gun, positioning himself between Amara and the door. But when it burst open, it wasn't Uncle Juno's men. It was Miho, flanked by 5 others, men Amara didn't recognize but who carried themselves with the same lethal grace as Taemin. Cousin. Miho grinned, though his eyes were sharp. Heard you just committed digital suicide. Thought you might need backup. How did you? Found the bodies at the safe house. Figured you'd come here. Miho's expression sobered. Uncle knows too. He's 10 minutes behind us with half his crew. We need to move. No. Taemin stood firm. I'm done running. This ends today. Taemin, Amara started. The files are out. By now, every news outlet in Korea has them. The police, the prosecutors, everyone. He looked at Miho. Uncle's finished. But he'll come here anyway, because he has nothing left to lose. Then we make our stand. Miho pulled out his own weapon. The old guard versus the new. Poetic. The next 7 minutes were spent fortifying positions, checking ammunition, preparing for war. Amara felt useless until Taemin pressed a smaller gun into her hands. Safety's here. Point and shoot. Only if you have to. His eyes held hers. I need you to survive this, understand? Whatever happens to me, you survive. Nothing's happening to you. Amara. We survive together or not at all. She kissed him hard. That's the deal. His smile was sad but proud. Deal. The cars arrived in a spray of gravel. Doors slammed. Uncle Juno's voice rang out in Korean, commanding, furious. Taemin responded, his words measured but unafraid. He wants you, Miho translated quietly for Amara. Says if Taemin sends you out, he'll let him live. Not happening, Taemin and Amara said simultaneously. Juno shouted again, and then hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted. Glass shattered. Amara ducked behind the kitchen counter as bullets tore through the hammock's traditional walls like paper. Beside her, Taemin returned fire with cold precision, each shot calculated, controlled. The fight lasted minutes but felt like hours. Miho took a bullet to the shoulder but kept shooting. One of their allies went down. The air smelled like gunpowder and blood and fear. Then, sirens. Distant but growing closer. Police, someone shouted. The gunfire slowed, then stopped. Through the broken doorway, Amara saw Uncle Juno's face contort with rage and something else, fear. His empire was crumbling in real time, the files ensuring his arrest was imminent. His men were already retreating, unwilling to die for a lost cause. Juno locked eyes with Taemin across the destroyed room. This isn't over. Yes, Taemin said quietly. It is. Juno raised his gun, aiming directly at Amara. Time slowed. She saw Taemin move, saw the desperation in his eyes as he lunged toward her. The shot rang out. But it wasn't Juno who fired. It was Taemin's mother, stepping from behind Juno, her own weapon smoking. Juno crumpled, clutching his leg, his gun clattering away. Enough. Her voice was steel. She spoke in English, looking at Amara. My husband would not have wanted this. He chose you for my son because he saw what I was too blind to see, that Taemin needed someone strong enough to save him from this family. The police swarmed in moments later. Juno was arrested on the spot, already screaming about lawyers. Several of his men were taken into custody. The scene became chaos, EMTs, investigators, reporters held back by police tape. Taemin was questioned for hours. So was Amara. But the evidence was damning, and their self-defense claim was solid. By nightfall, they were free to go, though warned not to leave Seoul until the investigation concluded. Miho recovered in the hospital, already planning his next move. Going to start fresh, he told them, grinning despite the pain. Maybe open a bar. Something honest for once. Taemin's mother visited them at a hotel, neutral ground. She looked older, tired, but there was something like peace in her eyes. The family is fractured. Many will be arrested. Our name is destroyed. She looked at her son. You did what needed to be done. Your father would be proud. Her eyes slid to Amara. Take care of him. He's always been too much like his brother, too good for this world we made. I will, Amara promised. After she left, Taemin and Amara stood on the hotel balcony, watching Seoul's lights twinkle below. What now? Amara asked. Now we disappear. Change our names, start over somewhere no one knows us. He pulled her close. Maybe America. You can show me your world for once. Just like that? You'd give up everything? I already have. He turned her to face him. But I gained everything that matters. You. Smooth talker. I'm serious. I spent my whole life trapped by my family name, by expectations, by fear. But you made me brave enough to want something different. His forehead touched hers. I love you. I want a life with you. A real one, where we choose our own path. Even if it means being nobody? Especially if it means that. He kissed her softly. I'd rather be nobody with you than somebody without you. 3 months later, they stood in a small apartment in Seattle, boxes still unpacked, rain pattering against the windows. Taemin, now just Min, a name he'd chosen himself, worked at a tech startup, his skills in demand without his infamous surname attached. Amara had enrolled in photography courses, finally pursuing the dream she'd abandoned. They were broke compared to their old life. Their apartment was tiny. They did their own grocery shopping, cleaned their own home, lived like normal people. It was perfect. Any regrets? Amara asked one evening, curled against him on their second-hand couch. He was quiet for a moment, considering. Sometimes I miss Miho. Wonder how he's doing. As if summoned, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, a photo of Miho behind a bar, grinning, with the caption, Grand opening next month. You're invited. Try not to start any wars at my establishment. Taemin laughed, showing Amara. No regrets, he said. Not a single one. She kissed him, tasting the promise of their future, uncertain, ordinary, and completely theirs. Outside, the rain continued to fall on their new city, washing away the past, leaving only the future they'd choose together. Two people who'd found love in the midst of chaos and decided that love was worth more than empires. They'd survived the Choi family. They'd survived Uncle Juno. They'd survived assassination attempts and ultimatums and war. Now they'd survive normalcy, the beautiful, mundane, extraordinary normalcy of two people simply being together. And that, Amara thought as she fell asleep in her husband's arms, was the greatest adventure of all. Did you fall for Taemin and Amara's story? Drop a red heart if you're ready for more forbidden romance and dangerous passion.